So I was watching an Odyssey playthrough from a random livestream, and an idea popped into my head. We know that Assassin's Creed Shadows is set in 16th century Japan, specifically during the late Sengoku period. With the sheer number of Assassin's Creed games out there, including the spin-offs, there are bound to be connections and crossovers with certain characters. In fact, we've seen this quite a few times already in the franchise where characters have crossed paths, either in person, through documents, or by influence. Take Ezio discovering Altair's skeleton in Revelations, or Shao Jun travelling to Italy to meet an aging Ezio in Embers. Then there's Adewale and Shay's encounter in Rogue, Aveline and Connor meeting in Liberation, Cassandra and Eivor crossing paths in Valhalla, and of course Basim and Eivor's interactions in the same game. There are plenty more connections throughout the series, but these are the ones that immediately came to mind. But the point I'm trying to make is that past characters appearing in other Assassin's Creed games is nothing new in the franchise. With Assassin's Creed Shadows releasing soon, or depending on when you're watching this, it might already be out, which could make this video pointless, I've chosen 4 characters that we could potentially see in Shadows. Now just to be clear, I don't actually think any of these characters will appear or be referenced. I'll say that again, I don't think any of these characters will appear or be referenced. This video is purely just speculation. But regardless, it's an interesting topic to discuss, hence why I'm making the video. Now, the 4 characters I've chosen will be ranked from most likely to least likely, so keep that in mind. But before we dive in, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now that that's out the way, let's get into the first character, starting with the most likely. The character I think is the most likely to appear in Assassin's Creed Shadows is Cassandra from Odyssey, and there are several reasons for this. First of all, a major spoiler warning for the modern day storyline of Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 3, 2, 1. Then again, not that it matters, because I suppose the fact that Cassandra is even being considered for this video is already a spoiler in itself. By now, we all know that Cassandra was essentially immortal for over 2,400 years, which when you say it out loud, kind of sounds a bit outrageous. But the point is, she lived from 458 BCE all the way to the year 2018. During that time, it's widely speculated that she spent countless centuries searching for pieces of Eden. She witnessed countless wars, and was even involved in major battles. In fact, I even made a video titled 7 Unanswered Questions in Assassin's Creed that dives deeper into what Cassandra might have been up to during those 2,400 plus years. And here's the thing, Assassin's Creed Shadows takes place right within that time frame. If that was not enough, consider the fact that Odyssey is a game developed by Ubisoft Quebec, the same studio behind Assassin's Creed Shadows. That alone makes her appearance in Shadows a real possibility. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past the Quebec team to find a way to feature her, and this kind of thing has happened before. Just look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla with the whole crossover event thing that happened. We saw Cassandra stumble into the Viking world and meet with Eivor, and there was even a whole quest focused on them two. Now granted, Valhalla and Odyssey's time periods are a lot closer compared to feudal Japan and ancient Greece. From a lore perspective, Cassandra spent centuries searching for ezio artifacts, so it's entirely possible that she traveled to Japan at some point. Shadows will likely feature some kind of ezio influence, as most Assassin's Creed games do. In fact, I kind of believe that there will be at least one piece of Eden, if not multiple, based on the leaked Assassin's Creed Shadows art book, which mentions a certain character searching for the Imperial Regalia. These artifacts represent the 3 primary virtues: Valor, which is a sword, Wisdom, a mirror, and Benevolence, which is a jewel. My best guess is that these could be pieces of Eden, though that is just speculation on my part. If Assassin's Creed Shadows does include some level of ezio influence, that alone creates a natural opportunity to tie Cassandra into the game, whether as part of a side quest, a crossover, or just a subtle reference. Maybe Nawe or Yasuke come across rumors of a mysterious foreign warrior who never ages, or they discover an old document that mentions her. That would be a fitting way to acknowledge her presence in this time period. That said, if Cassandra was to appear, I would not expect it to happen at all during the main story. Just as Ubisoft added the Cassandra crossover to Valhalla post-launch, I can see them introducing something similar in Shadows, perhaps as a free update 6 months down the line. In fact, recently in one of Andy Reload's recent videos, he spoke to Charles Benoit, the game director for Shadows, and he mentioned that the game will feature a lot of Easter eggs, so maybe a Cassandra Easter egg? I don't know, but take that with a grain of salt. For now, it's just a very interesting possibility to consider. We are now moving into Copium territory. Let's talk about Shao Jun possibly appearing in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Shao Jun's connection to the Japanese Brotherhood despite being Chinese makes her relevant to the game's setting. And before you say it, yes, Japanese characters can be part of the Chinese Brotherhood, and vice versa. I'll go over that a bit more soon. Now let's be real, by the time Shadows takes place, Shao Jun would either be very old or possibly already dead, but her legacy is undeniable. She's one of the most overlooked assassins in the series, which I don't think anybody can deny. Despite being kind kind of mentored by Ezio, and later working to rebuild the Chinese Brotherhood. What makes this particularly relevant to Shadows is that her influence extended beyond China. In the Blade of Xiaojun manga, we learn that her apprentice Kotetsu, or Xiao Hu, was the one who founded the Japanese Brotherhood in the mid-1500s, the very same brotherhood that will be featured in Shadows. Since the game takes place in 1579 or around that time, Kotetsu would likely still be alive, or at the very least, his actions would be referenced. That said, I don't think Ubisoft will actually include him, simply because he's not well known enough for most players to recognize. What's interesting though, is that one of the first assassins inducted into Kotetsu's brotherhood was Hattori Hanzo, who we already know is confirmed to play a big role in Shadows as an actual physical character. If Ubisoft is staying faithful to the established lore, then Kotetsu should be mentioned, and by extension Xiaojun as his mentor, even if she's not alive during the events of Shadows. Her influence on Kotetsu, Hattori Hanzo and the Brotherhood gives Ubisoft plenty of opportunities to reference her role in assassin history. But what if Xiaojun is still alive? She was born in 1505, which means she'd be in her late 70s during Shadows. Now while that is very old for an assassin, it's not impossible. Altair lived to 92, and Roshan in Valhalla was still active well into her later years. If Xiaojun does appear, she probably would not be a fighter anymore, but she could still be involved in some way, perhaps as an elder mentor, through records and letters, or even as somebody Kotetsu and the Japanese Brotherhood still reference. Even if she doesn't appear in Shadows at all, at least give us her outfit as a legacy outfit for Naoe later down the line. Unlike some legacy outfits that feel out of place, Xiaojun's robes would fit perfectly with Naoe. Since Ubisoft previously gave Evie Frye Xiaojun's outfit in Syndicate, it would make sense for Shadows to have it. Now personally, if Ubisoft wants to include Xiaojun without overshadowing the main story, a small cameo or some sort of text reference would be the best approach, just enough to acknowledge her influence without taking too much focus away from Yasuke and Naoe. Hear me out with what I'm about to say. It's known that there is no traditional modern day in Shadows. In fact, it's replaced with the Animus Hub, which continues the modern day from there. But I have reason to believe that Basim might appear in Assassin's Creed Shadows, but not in the way you're thinking. Not as a literal playable character we control, but as a digital representation or maybe a voice. Now, given that Basim is now the modern day protagonist, there is a strong possibility that he could be tied into the game through Animus Hub related sequences. Now, you don't need to believe me with what I'm about to say, but the reason I say this is because I saw gameplay footage from somebody that is right now currently playing the full game because the PlayStation Store made a mistake, and I wish I could show you the gameplay that he showed me on screen, but I can't. Now, in the video he showed me, the player encounters something Animus related in the world, and a pop-up appeared that read, "Animus systems breached. Stabilize anomalies and gain data fragments to advance your active strand." And they even said to press the touchpad to open the Animus menu. Now, I don't know exactly what any of that means, but it instantly reminded me of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and more specifically the Animus anomalies. If you remember, anomalies in Valhalla were sections of the game where Layla was teleported into the simulation, tasked with solving puzzles in a glitching world or something like that. I found these to be a complete snooze fest. These sequences tied into the larger modern day story, allowing us to uncover pieces of the simulation's corrupted data. Since Assassin's Creed Shadows appears to have a similar system in place based on what I saw from the gameplay, it raises the question. If there is somebody speaking during these moments, who would it be? Layla was the modern day protagonist during Valhalla, and she was the one interacting with these anomalies. But after the events of that game, spoiler warning, Layla got trapped in the grey, an ezio-like digital afterlife, while Basim escaped and took her place in the real world. This means if Shadows continues to explore Animus related anomalies, the logical person to be guiding us through these would be Basim. We know from the end of Valhalla that he's working with the modern day assassins, like Sean and Rebecca, so it would not be surprising if he's the one analysing and stabilising these breaches in the simulation. If this is the case, Basim's role in Shadows could be similar to what we saw with William Mars in earlier games, where he provides updates, instructions or observations but is not physically present. Instead of Basim being a major narrative focus, he could simply serve as a background voice, offering insight into the anomalies as us, the player, interacts with them. Of course, this is just pure speculation based on what I saw in the leaked footage, but if Shadows is incorporating these types of glitch-based Animus events, then Basim's presence, at least in some form, feels like a possibility. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. This one is 99% not going to happen, but I still have to mention it because there will be comments saying, well, what about Ezio? Now, I'm not going to entirely disregard this as that would just be arrogant and not helpful. If there is one assassin whose legacy deserves a mention, it's him. Given that Shadows takes place in 1579, 55 years after Ezio's death, he of course will not make a direct appearance because he's dead. Unless Ubisoft decide to include a ghost Ezio as a boss fight, so oh no, get that thought out of my head. But the fact that he's dead does not not mean Ubisoft cannot reference him in some way. By the time Shadows takes place, Ezio's teachings would still be influencing assassins across the globe. In Assassin's Creed Embers, we see that Xiao Jun was one of the last people to learn from him, and considering her apprentice Kotetsu later founded the Japanese Brotherhood, as I already talked about, there's already a direct link between Ezio's influence and the setting of Shadows. Even though Ezio's children Flavia and Marcello likely did not become assassins, there is still a possibility of an indirect reference to letters, collectibles, or even an old Italian merchant mentioning his name in passing. Assassin's Creed has done this before. Black Flag featured an Italian diplomat voiced by Roger Craig Smith, who is Ezio's literal voice actor, which was a fun nod to the fans.
There is no beauty to this city, no expression of joy, no aesthetic plan.
A similar Easter egg in Shadows could work without disrupting the narrative. Another way to honor Ezio's legacy would be through a legacy outfit for Yasuke. But then again, Ezio's outfit and Yasuke? How on God's green earth would that even fit him? At the end of the day, Assassin's Creed Shadows is about Japan and its own assassin lineage. So, Ezio references should be subtle, not forced. A name drop, a collectible, or a brief mention in Brotherhood documents would be enough to acknowledge his impact without overshadowing much. Anything beyond that would probably feel unnecessary, but knowing Ubisoft, they might just find a way to squeeze him in for that nostalgia bait. I mean, they kind of did that in Valhalla with that mysterious voice, if you remember that.
Who are you? Who are you?
And there we have it. I've spoken about 4 potential characters that could make appearances, whether it's physical, digital, or name drops in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, if you want my honest thoughts, I think none of these will happen at all. I feel like Ubisoft are trying their hardest to move away from the past Assassin's Creed games, given that the Animus hub does not even go further back before Origins. And of course the old developers are long gone. But what do you think? Do you think that there is a slight chance any of these characters could get mentioned or maybe shown? Let me know down below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And with that said, I will see you in the next one.